Okay, the time is 7:07. I will call the special called meeting of the mayor and council to order. Today is January 9th, 2013. This is a special called meeting of the mayor and council. This meeting was called by 4 members of council: Councilman Emanuel, Councilwoman Kraus, Mayor Pro Tem Witz, and Councilman Howard. Ms. Arnold, has it been verified that all members of council have received personal notification of this meeting?
Not that I'm aware of.
If I did not receive personal notification of this meeting, but I am waiving that notice by being present tonight, can one of the council members who called this meeting tell me if Councilman Sabag received personal notice of this meeting?
Madam Mayor, let me defer to the attorney. I think that was clarified at the hearing that we had just left. Am I right?
It obviously was a point of
Mr.
ruling.
Powell, I'm asking the council a question at this point in time. I've asked them if any of them can verify. So if you'll please, you can have your opportunity to advise them if you want. But right now, I'm asking council a question.
I appreciate.
If you could please have a seat until we get to the appropriate time.
Authority in terms of decision making, in terms of procedure.
Mr. Powell, if you would please have respect for the chair, I'm asking the council a question at this point in time, and if they want to advise you, if they want to ask you for advice, they can do so. But at this point in time, I'm trying to just call the meeting to order. So if you could please have a seat at this point in time, okay?
And I have a duty as city attorney to advise the council on the subject matter that's been raised, and that is notice of meeting. It is a contested issue as far as the subject matter and the meeting itself. And
Mr. Powell, can you, if you want to give the advice, I'll ask you the questions. If you'll just answer the questions instead of going off on a tangent. We don't need any political speeches from an attorney tonight, okay? Does our charter, excuse me, Mr. Powell, does our charter require personal notice for a special called meeting?
Respectfully, Mayor, respectfully, my duty to advise the council that to put on the record the methodology for how the meeting was called and the methodology for service is very important, and to have this council make a finding as to how that service was done and verify every part of that by the authority of the city council by vote to affirm notice was properly given.
Mr. Powell, could you please answer the question? Does our charter require personal notice for a special called meeting?
So that council
Mr.
and
Powell,
the mayor,
could you please answer the question? Does our charter require personal notice for a specially called meeting?
Respectfully, Mayor, the charter in calling a meeting is section 2.19, and the ingredients of that special call are this: that on the call of 3 members of the city council, and as we go through that, I'm assuming 3 members of the city council did notify the clerk and the city manager that had been done.
Mr. Powell, I'm asking you about personal notice. We've already established that this has been called by 4 members of council. We've already put on the record that Councilwoman Kraus, Councilman David Emanuel, Mayor Pro Tem Witz, and Councilman Howard called this meeting. That's not the issue. The issue is if someone can please certify before we begin this meeting if personal notice has been served upon Councilman Sabag, since he is not here tonight. Can you state in your place that you have personally served Councilman Sabag with notice? Have you personally served him?
Notice of the special call meeting.
Mayor, excuse me, Mr. Powell, can you please answer the question? Have you served?
I am answering the question.
It's a yes or no question. You can explain yourself all you want after you answer the question. Can you state in your place that you have personally served Councilman Sabag with personal notice, either face-to-face or via telephone? Have you done that?
It does not require the description.
Have you done that, Mr. Powell?
The description does not require what the mayor's question is. The description is this.
Okay, but I'm not asking you what it requires. I'm asking you if you've done that. Have you done that?
Notice of such special meeting shall be served on all members, shall be served on.
Mr. Powell, you're making a mockery of this meeting.
Personally.
I'm trying to run the meeting and get us started, but you're making a mockery of what's going on here. Can you please answer the question, Mr. Powell? This doesn't have to be painful. It's a yes or no question. Have you personally given notice to Councilman Sabag to be here tonight?
At least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Now, it's my duty to inform you of what the call and how it's accomplished. That is my duty, and it has been placed in issue in a court this evening. And it is your duty to find how that was done. Now, I didn't do that.
Okay.
There are
Thank you for the answer, Mr. Powell. Mr. Powell, please be seated. At this point in time, I'd like to call the meeting, but I need to get some information from council, which you have just said you did not personally do, so you cannot give me any firsthand information. So if you will please sit down and allow me to ask council about the call of this meeting. If you need to advise them legally, you can ask for a recess so that you can talk to council, but at this point in time, I'd like to ask the members of council a question so we can get started with our meeting tonight. So please sit down, and if you would like to speak in the future, you'll have the floor, but at this point in time, we need to get started. Have any members of council, can they verify that they gave personal notice to Councilman Sabag?
I served, as the term served, notice on Mr. Sabag with 7 voicemail phone calls that I have recorded, and the recordings are in my car. I'll certainly be able to go out and bring that in and do it. And for the people in the room, this was argued less than 2 hours ago in front of, less than an hour ago in front of the Superior Court judge, who ruled that the meeting was called properly. So I don't understand what this is about. One more thing I'd like to add is Ms. Mayor Kaus said that she was not served. I disagree with that. I believe I can prove that Ms. Kaus was served. So why is she saying she wasn't served is beyond the pale for me also.
Mayor Pro Tem Witz, when you go to law school and can define what service is, then I'll be happy to default to your judgment. But I believe our charter says that we have to have personal service via face-to-face contact or the telephone. You left Councilman Sabag several voice messages. I understand that. I also understand that he is out of town on business. Did you ever actually have contact over the telephone with Councilman Sabag or face-to-face contact with Councilman Sabag? That is the question, yes or no?
I left 7 messages for Mr. Sabag at a number which he has always returned my phone calls in less than an hour and 50 minutes. I made those contacts, and the court earlier this evening heard that and
the court did not hear that information. The court actually said that since Councilman Sabag was not there, that was not something they could entertain. Did you, again, please answer the question, did you have any actual contact with Mr. Sabag over the telephone?
Am I right in, I'm asking the attorney, am I right in saying that as far as I know, I did, because I did leave 7 voice messages?
No, it's the requirement of the code is to serve it home. That is, you notify them at the place of abode if they're. Mm-hmm. It's not a service of process legal process server standard. It's my understanding that voice messages is allowed, that was given. It's also my understanding, and it would need to be verified by somebody in the panel or the staff, that emails were sent out notifying of the meeting in advance, just like all the meetings are called according to the council notification process. And that would need to be verified on the record. It is also my understanding that there was some process serve attempts, and that would need to be at least stated on the record in some way. My recommendation to you is, once all that is stated on the record, that there be a motion and vote of the council as to whether that meets your standard according to 2.19.
Mayor Pro Tem Witz.
I feel I have met the standard set.
You're stating here in front of everyone that you personally served over the telephone, that you talked with Councilman Sabag.
I'm stating publicly that I have left 7 voice messages that I have recorded with on Mr. Sabag's voicemail, and that I believe that satisfies the requirement. Okay.
This is just going to go round and round all night long, so I will, under protest, call this meeting to order. The first action on tonight's meeting is a first reading for consideration action on an ordinance clarifying the scope of the mayor's authority to participate in administrative affairs pursuant to section 3.10E of the city charter. Per our charter, all ordinances are to be presented at this time. I have not been served with a copy of any ordinance that's on tonight's agenda. I believe that Ms. Woodward, did you have an opinion as far as this being a something that's allowed by state statute? If you'll state your name and and who you are for the record.
Karen Woodward, interim city attorney, or I'm not sure what you want to call my status. But in answer to your question, the code in section 35-35-5B1 states that to consider an ordinance under the home rule power, that it shall be done at a regular consecutive meeting of the municipal governing authority. And of course, this is a special called meeting, not a regular meeting. That is what the law states.
And this have you seen this ordinance?
I saw it very late this afternoon, and it was titled an ordinance under the home rule power, something to that effect. I'm afraid I don't.
I think that's number 2 on the agenda, but I don't know if anyone has ever actually received a copy of item number 1 on the agenda. I have not, at least.
2, 3, 1. Okay. I don't have a copy in answer to your question.
Ms. Woodward, as the city attorney, our charter states that all ordinances shall be drafted by the city attorney. Did you, if you haven't seen this ordinance, have you obviously drafted this ordinance?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And the mayor points out a precarious situation that this city finds itself, and that is you've got 2 people serving as your city, claiming to serve as your city attorney. And let me agree on this, in this item, agree with the mayor's construction. It is on the agenda tonight to give me the authority to draft that in preparation for the actual first read of that item on Monday night. And so the action I'm requesting is authority to draft the document and have it delivered to you as the mayor describes in advance of the meeting, and it be put on the schedule for the agenda on Monday night.
Mr. Powell, that is not the way the agenda is written, and so there can be, the action tonight is whether there should be a first reading or not. There's no ordinance presented for us for a first reading, so that action item is moot, and we will move on to item number 3. First reading, consideration, action on home rule ordinance to add section 5.16C to the charter of the city of Snellville.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Witz.
If this is a problem with the wording on the agenda, may I make a motion that we change the wording on the agenda item so this can be discussed without any action being taken. And if it's a problem, and please, and referring to the city attorney on this, if it's a problem, if we need to confirm and move up number 6, for the vote of confidence, as you as our city attorney do that, move that up on the agenda so that you have, if it's the pleasure of the body, affirm that you are the city manager so that we don't run into the same problem through the rest of the agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem Witz, you cannot amend an agenda to add something that is not on it. The purpose of our notice is so that council members cannot call special called meetings without notifying all of the council members and then amend the agenda to put things on there that's not on there that they didn't know about in the first place. This was not something that was in the call of the specially called meeting. It's something that's not on the agenda, and it's something that cannot be added at the agenda, on the agenda at this point in time. So again, item number 2 is moot, and we're moving on to item number 3.
Point of
First
order.
reading consideration. Mayor Pro Tem Witz, you've already had your point of order. I believe you are out of order.
Point of order.
Councilman Emanuel.
I would like the city attorney to give us some more clarity on that.
Ms. Woodward, if you could please come
I would
forward
like
and give us some
Tony
clarity.
Powell to give us more clarity on that.
Mr. Powell is not our city attorney, so whatever he says is not binding on this council. Ms. Woodward, if you would come forward and give us some.
Well, what I would recommend, given as has been referenced earlier, we were just in court and the judge indicated that he was going to rule on these issues at a declaratory motion hearing in the future. And my recommendation would be wait until you have a ruling from the court to proceed on these agenda items.
If I, in contrast to that, the court needs official action before it in order to rule on anything. That's why these are on the agenda, so that the declaratory
It has
judgment
official action in before it tonight, Mr. Powell, with what was filed by myself for declaratory judgment. It doesn't require, that's a misstatement of the law, Mr. Powell. It does not require any other official action by this council. There already is a pending lawsuit in the Superior Court of Gwinnett County as we stand tonight.
I agree with the mayor that there are issues that are already vested for resolution. This particular one is not, and what we're trying to do, what we're trying to do is clarify the charter confusion and the power battle between the mayor and the council. That's all. This is just clarification. We're trying to get there, get it resolved so that this community can have peace. This is an issue.
Mr. Powell, again, this is not the time. This is
the
not a public
delegation.
comment portion of our meeting, Mr. Powell. We are not here for political speeches. You can go to the city of Lawrenceville and give all the political speeches you want.
Wow.
At this point in time, if you are done giving your legal comments, if you please could have a seat so I can continue on with this meeting. First reading consideration, Mr. Powell, you are not city attorney, and that's what's pending litigation before the Superior Court of Gwinnett County. If you really cared to do what was in the best interest of the city, you would stop this debacle and wait until we had a ruling from the judge or step aside so that we can carry on the city business of the city. Now, please be kind enough to sit down and allow us to carry forward with this meeting. We're on item number 3. Mr. Powell, Mr. Powell,
you have a line
we are
item
under
on your
item number
agenda.
3,
You have a
first
line
reading,
item on your
consideration
agenda
and action on the
that
home
allows
rule.
you to vote on the
Mr.
preparation
Powell,
of the amendment
please.
to 3.10.
Chief.
The issue is the confusion between the powers of the city manager and the
Mr.
powers
Powell.
of the mayor.
Okay,
when it comes to the administrative offices. of the
Mr.
city.
Powell, you are showing utter disrespect to the chair, to the position and office of mayor. If you can please have a seat so we can continue on with our meeting.
And that
Mr.
issue desperately
Powell.
needs to be resolved by a clarification of the delegation of authority under 3.10. It is this council's right to define the administrative duties that it delegates to the mayor.
Mr. Powell, you are making a mockery of our mayor and our council by standing here and not allowing us to continue on with our meeting. You're not before a court. You're not making an argument for your legal case. You're not making a speech. If you would please have a seat so we can move on with our meeting. We are not in the public comment portion of this meeting. It is not a public forum. You're not entitled to be making public comments at this point in time. If you need to take a recess so that you can consult with the council, I will entertain that recess, but if you could please sit down so we can move forward with this meeting.
One last thing, Your Honor. I ask for the council to vote to give the city attorney authority to draft an amendment to 3.10.
Now, that is not on tonight's agenda. We've already moved on to item number 3, first reading, consideration, and action on home rule ordinance to add section 5.16C to the charter of the city of Snellville. Ms. Woodward, I believe you had an opinion on item number 3.
Yes, ma'am. With regard to item 3 on the agenda, the first point was that it was required to be on a regular meeting, not a special meeting agenda. And then the second opinion was that it is the subject of something that's going to be considered by the Superior Court.
Thank you, Ms. Woodward. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Woodward about item number 3?
I do. Good evening.
Hello.
Once again, I'm listening to City Attorney Powell. These things, we have to state that we want to make this change so that when it goes to the Superior Court, we're on record. The city's on record and the majority of this council's on record that that's the position that we take. We can't take that if we don't consider it. I understand your point about the regular meeting, and certainly I don't believe we should take action tonight, but I think it can be discussed, and been able to be voted on at Monday's meeting, and that would be within accordance of the rules of the charter. Am I correct?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, so what is consideration and action, and just as number 2 was consideration and action, we can still consider it. We can table the action until Monday night, but certainly going back to number 2 and number 3, we can consider the ordinance and clarify it without taking the action of the vote, but postpone the table the vote until Monday's meeting. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Witt's
I asked the
consideration.
question.
Mayor Pro Tem Witt's consideration means discussion. The action item is specifically listed on the agenda as a first reading. So if you were trying to take a vote on something other than a first reading to authorize something, that is not on tonight's agenda. That was not published as part of the call for a special called meeting. Our rules of procedure require that all topics that are going to be discussed in a special called meeting be published in that call of the meeting. You didn't publish anything about authorizing the city attorney to take any actions. You published that you were having first readings on these things. If you would like to place those on a future council agenda to authorize the city attorney, you can do so, but at this point in time, you cannot amend to add to a special called meeting agenda.
I'm not adding to it at all. First three words, consideration and action.
Pro Tem Wentz, you are skipping the very first two words, first reading.
Well, I'm saying that we're not going to have the first reading. I can see that.
So if we have no first reading, then we can take no other action.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a reading on that from a parliamentarian, please.
You are out of order. We are on Article number 3, first reading, consideration, action on home rule ordinance. I have called Article 3 for a motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Point of order.
You are out of order.
Point of order.
I have called item number 3
order.
for a motion. Is there a motion on the first reading of consideration action on home rule ordinance to add section 5.16C to the charter of the city of Snellville? Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I don't believe we should move forward until we have an action on.
We have already moved past item 2,
2,
so any point of order on item number 2 is untimely. We have already moved on to item number 3.
Can we have a vote of council as to whether we move past article number 2?
Item number 3, before your comments started, Mayor Pro Tem Witz, I had already made comments, and Ms. Woodward had already come and spoken to item number 3. We were clearly moved past item number 2 when the point of order was made, therefore is an out-of-time point of order. Again, do I have a motion on item number 3? Otherwise, the matter fails, and we'll move on to item number 4. Is there a motion on item number 3?
Point
If
of
I could
order.
address the
If
council
there
there.
is a motion on
There
item
seems to
number
be confusion
3.
on the agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Powell, you do not have the floor. This is not a public comment portion. Please take your seat. This is the last time I will ask you to please sit down.
As the city attorney, it's important for us to...
Mr. Powell, please sit down.
Procedurally,
Mr. Powell,
to procedurally
Chief-
go through the agenda items in order
you
for
can.
action by the council. No action, the mayor can't just move on to the next agenda item without action table.
I'd like to ask for a
Chief-
recess at this time, please.
So granted, we'll have a 5-minute recess.